of you. I just want to tell you that everything I've read and what I know of you, you keep doing that.
Oh, thank you.
It's truly a pleasure and an honor to have independent artist, singer, songwriter, youth empowerment coach, edutainer, New Zealand native, and DC transplant, Emma G, here on Sophie's Parlor.
Yes.
Emma, tell us first, where did the name Emma G come from?
Oh my goodness. Well, so my grandfather moved from Iran to the United States back in the early 60s, and had a very complicated last name that began with a G. The pronunciation I'm terrible at, but I will try my best, is Ramaromi. And that name is a very powerful name. However, my mother was very aware that passing this name throughout generations on to me would make things potentially rather difficult while growing up in New Zealand, where I'm from. So she decided that Emma would be a good balance between the complicated last name and something that people could pronounce. And of course, my father was from Fiji, and so the name Emma also has the appropriate pronunciation for the Fijian culture.
Great. So, tell us a little bit about your background.
My background, goodness. Well, I was born, in New Zealand. My mother is from Pennsylvania. My father was from Fiji. And I was born with a rare health condition called hydrocephalus. So throughout my entire life, I have been dealing with this cognitive, it's a neurological condition. I've had 10 brain surgeries as a result, and 24 surgeries in total. And I was blessed to be born with a mother who bent over backwards to make sure that I was able to thrive, not just survive through this condition. And so thankfully she discovered how powerful music is in helping the brain actually regenerate and function and overcome brain damage. So my background is that I was born singing. I was born writing songs. I distinctly remember on my 5th birthday writing a song called School is Cool because I was so excited to start elementary. I've always been a bit of a geek and proud of it. But, but music was my thing of, it started as my tool to communicate with other people, because when you've had brain surgery, you're automatically an outcast. You're automatically the freak, the Frankenstein, every other word that people can call you. And even still to this day, we all overcome, or we're all faced with multiple traumas and challenges and things. And music has been the thing that's helped me hold on and not give up, and thrive through all of it. Thrive through everything. So to me, I've been very big on just making sure that that my music is not just here to serve me, but it's also to serve other people within the community who are also facing trauma, struggle, and overwhelm, basically.
On thriving and making the best of, and it's just a challenging situation, but you're by no means an outcast or an other. You are an inspiration.
Thank you. It's funny that you say that, because for me, there is no shame in being an outcast these days. I'm very proud of the freak flag that I fly, and I think that there's if nothing else, I think the last 18 months have really shown us how important it is to recognize those superpowers that we all hide from ourselves. It's anyways, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. And I saw in your I think it was on your website, you did, in speaking about something, talk about superpowers. How do you envision what do you envision superpowers to be?
Superpowers, I think, look and smell different on everybody. I think that generally speaking, everyone's superpowers are those things that they're afraid to show the public.
Wow.
So, like one of my girls, Stephanie Matthias, she's another musician here locally in the DMV. She recently realized that anxiety is her superpower. And I think that's so beautiful, you know. For me, I try to pride myself in having multiple superpowers, but we all do, one of my superpowers, I think, is my vulnerability. We're so often told that, especially as women of color, that being vulnerable is a weakness, and I think it is exactly the opposite. To be vulnerable is to allow other people to see the real you, and in all of the messy and all of the ugly and all of the power and all of the strength. And I think by allowing ourselves to lean into those dark, scary places of ourselves, we inherently give other people permission to live authentically and to lead with love and compassion and authenticity. And I think that is something to be proud of. And I think to go political with it a little bit, I think, to be a person of color is also a superpower, because when you're born with a weight on your back, when you're born with the amount of trial and tribulation that every person of color or every minority community within the United States is born with, automatically your empathy increases. Automatically the importance of staying positive and keeping on laughing and being able to really lean into your community. There's so many things that we're told are our discrepancies, but I think the only way a tree is going to grow is if you kick dirt on it. And that's what makes a superpower, is recognizing, okay, the universe has given me this struggle. I can either go through it or grow through it. And by growing through it, I can really let my superpowers develop, shine, and save the world.
A different way of looking at what we are natural.
Yeah.
And if we accept who we are, then we can be authentic, right? Whether it's anxiety, whether it's whatever, fear, or whatever else, huh?
We're all learning every day, no matter if you're 12 or 72. I think, it's always an ongoing journey to discover who you are, and because it's always changing, and remind yourself to keep loving yourself and be graceful with yourself. But I think one of the biggest things for me that I've recently learned, especially with the release of my latest album, which I wrote only this year, is that being strong enough strong might be a weird word, being brave enough to be unapologetic in my truth,
yes,
is inherently going to allow other people to be unapologetic and love themselves again. And that is my hope. That is my absolute prayer, to just remind people how freaking amazing you are, and beautiful and strong and powerful and resilient and, anyways.
One of the titles that you go under is edutainer.
Yes.
What does that mean?
An edutainer is an educational entertainer. So for me, an edutainer is somebody who uses their art to teach, or to empower, or to mentor. So, I recently had the absolute blessed opportunity to perform alongside several organizational parties and discussion and forums. And I find that a lot of the songs that I'm writing about align perfectly with the topics that are being discussed at those roundtables or at those events. So songs like Living Proof, which is talking all about the importance of leading every decision with love as opposed to from a fear-based place. Together We Rise was a song written for acknowledging, celebrating, and amplifying the power of diversity. Superhero is a song that I wrote about challenging the United States to be their own kind of superhero and choose love and compassion over bigotry and racism. My last single, Rise from the Ashes, is all about helping remind people that, you know, in order for the phoenix to be born, a fire needs to take place. How are you going to rise? Like, the entire world has been on fire for the last however long. I mean, some countries have been on fire for a lot longer. But what an opportunity for us to recognize the opportunity to step into that authentic and step into that power and step into that place of learning and growth and prosperity, if we choose to.
During the pandemic, most of us had a lot of time, more time, less time for some, but just analyzing who we are and the place in our lives and how we would cope with those circumstances. You did something during February of 2021. You want to tell the listeners about that?
I'm ridiculous. So, actually, at the end of 2019, I started my own, a different branch of my music business called Empowerment Through Music Coaching, where I've coupled my love of youth work. I used to do youth work back in New Zealand with the YMCA. And then I've managed to find this sweet spot of coupling that with music. So helping teenagers channel their voices, struggles, and traumas through songwriting, you know, it's wonderful work. However, I kind of lost track of myself for a minute. So throughout the month of February, I wrote a song a day for 30 days straight, challenged myself to, like, even if I didn't know what the heck I was going to write about that day, I would just see what the universe, see what God, see what the goddess wanted me to write about. And honestly, some of the songs completely surprised me. I found myself writing about brain trauma. I found myself writing about learning about racism. I found myself writing about songs to do with failing forward, to do with being female and strong in my character, even though we're so often told that we're the weaker gender. You know, just everything that I didn't realize I was struggling with at the time poured out of me. And the funny thing is, now, 8 months later, I'm looking back at these lyrics and thinking, how did I know that? How did I know to write that? I wear my mask like a smile. I didn't, like, sure, on surface level back then in February, I knew what that meant. 3 weeks ago, I'm singing that song to myself and I start, like, literally I'm in tears, because for the first time in my life, I'm recognizing, yeah, Emma, it's time to kill that mask now in order to become the person you want to become, in order to become a healthy, happy human, not just in this relationship, but in life as a performer, as an authentic human being who wants to contribute something to society. I need to take off that mask. One of the things that I learned last year was actually from two of my mentors, Marianne Williamson and Angela Laria, where they told me that we all have the answers in ourselves. We're just so distracted by the world that we forget to listen. And I think that's what this album reminded me about, is that I've always known deep down who I am and who I want to be. But I've just become so swept up in life and trauma that I've forgotten who that person is. And that's why music is so powerful. It helps to remind me, and hopefully remind the audience, who they are, and the songwriters who they are. You know, some of the clients that I work with, the teenagers that I'm working with, as they channel their voices through their songs, they're writing the most incredible stuff. And they, they'll write this line down. They're like, I don't know where that came from, but it's so true. And I'm like, well, yep, you're 17 years old, and yet you know yourself. Do not let the world dim your creative. Don't let them tell you who you are. You know who you are. Music is the powerful tool to help us remind us. Well, The Wolf I Feed is one of my favorite songs from the Born in Crisis album. I wrote it because I came across the Native American tale of the grandfather speaking with his son over a campfire one night. And the grandfather was telling the grandson, in every human being, we have two wolves that live inside of us. One wolf of anger, depression, hurt, fear, and sadness. And the other wolf of love, compassion, hope, everything positive. But these two wolves are constantly fighting inside of us. The grandson, really afraid, looks at his grandfather and says, well, which wolf wins? Which wolf is successful? And the grandfather responds, whichever wolf you decide to feed. And I thought, what a wonderful way to look at everything that we go through. Because so often it's easy to give up, drop the mic, walk away, and live in fear, live in hurt, live in anger, live in depression. And I'm not saying that there are obviously there are certain medical conditions that we need to also be understanding about. But everything that we do, every way that we react and respond and however we want to maneuver throughout our lives, I think it's really important that we stay in that hope state, stay in that flow state of love and compassion and empathy, and knowing full well that everything is how we respond.